this is even more fun than that last part.
Stress-free.
All right, let me think this through. I mixed colors here. I think I did the ones I wrote down. I did, let's see, what do I have here? So, yeah, I hope you see my shorthand. So cobalt blue, cobalt green, Windsor yellow, and of course, if you recall that this plus that equals that, and ultramarine blue, ultramarine green, and of course, this plus this equals that. And then salt. I have salt ready, because I'll need that, and I have, now if you have a loose bristled brush, that's what I'm trying to say, not brush. Okay, like this, if you don't have this, I think a normal brush, if it's longer, would work. Yeah, so something that's kind of loose, like that, because we're gonna actually literally throw the paint on here. So that means cover the sky, because it gets, and let me think here a minute. I'm gonna do this, because what's gonna happen is, and this is an example where I kind of think out loud before I do it here, so bear with me here. But I like to do this before I do it, because, you know, you don't want to start to decide what you're gonna do when you're in it. You wanna kind of plan it out before you get in there. I'm gonna be throwing colors on here. I'm gonna wet the bottom of this so that anything that comes down here won't create a hard edge. It'll just sort of flare off into the color. I may have to wet it again, but basically, this will be dry. I might when I spray it, I might let it go a little bit up into there. Basically, this is dry, this will all be wet, and again, the only reason this is wet is so that any of this paint that runs off will not create a hard edge. I want these, what's gonna happen is I'm gonna throw these little dots of paints on. From last year, remember this, we did the foreground, and we'll do it on this one too, of throwing colors in. And after these colors, these dots are on here, and I'm gonna kind of vary the colors as I go across. So you've got all these dots on here, and actually I'm gonna cover, I don't wanna go into those trees I just did either, so I'm not really concerned about the water, but I don't want it to go into the trees so much, so I'll do this. And what'll happen is I'll get all these dots on here, then I'm gonna take the sprayer, and before I even shoot that, I'm gonna just make sure it's primed and ready to go. Now, if you don't have this bottle, the worst bottle you can use are those little misters. They throw a fine mist. Don't use those. If you don't, you know, the old, as I mentioned, the old Windex bottles, the old index finger plunger type do this. You want one that has a real rough spray, which these have. We actually searched, Marlene, I shouldn't say, we searched long and hard to find these. These have kind of a light touch. Now, maybe you can't see what I'm doing, but you want an uneven thing. You don't want the fine mist, because it just makes these dots turn into blobs. The idea here is to get these paints down, and you have to do this relatively fast. Get these colored dots down there, and then I come across and spray. I'm going to pull this back. Then, do you see, I kind of have that down to the bottom of the sawtooths, because then I'm going to pull this back, and then I'm going to spray this, and I'm going to let the water sprays even go a bit above. So I've got all these color dots, and the water globs, now there's water globs I'm throwing on here, are going to go up into this area. Now, with the paint spots that are here, I want them to flare together, but I don't want to saturate it. If I saturate it, they're all going to blend into one big mass. What I'm trying to get is a look as if you're looking through the foliage, through the trees. You can see there's little, on the painting and on the, well, let me pull this off of here. Thank you. Okay, you can see there's little light areas in there. I don't want real big ones. Of course, I can manually fill those in after. So basically, you try to get these paint blobs to blend some. You try to keep some of these spaces. Every little space here that you see is where the paper did not get wet. So there was not a blob of paint there. There was not a water drop there. When the water, of course, hits these little paint dots, you're going to get this flaring out and this mixing. And it's one of those things where if you manually paint these trees in, it's gonna be much more orderly looking. It's the same old thing. If you know, so much of nature is, I don't want to say random, but I'm trying to get a wild look. And this is another advantage of watercolor, I think, is that it can do a lot of this stuff on its own. It doesn't always go your way. You have to be kind of open-minded a lot of times, maybe sometimes more than you like. But that's the idea, is I want to kind of have it do its own thing, this interaction of these colors, the water, the angle. You see I have this angled forward and to the side again, although I might tilt this maybe more towards me and less to the side. I want it to kind of come down a bit. Remember, this is wet down here, so it's going to come down. Again, I'm explaining this because once I get in here, I got to move kind of fast when I do this. And then early on in this process also, I'm going to just sprinkle the salt on. And those of you who have used, this is just regular table salt in here, that have used salt know that it has an effect of wicking up pigment, and it'll give you kind of interesting texture effects. So it adds even more to the texture effects that you have. And then, to add to all that fun, then when I have these kind of, this neat effect, I'm going to take my riggers again. I'm going to use this narrow one again, which I guess is a number 1, and this must be a number 4. I'll start with the number 1, and now these dots are all down here. I'm going to take and, with the colors primarily that are already here, I'm going to start pulling up into these kind of approximately, I'm not using these as hard and fast templates to fill. They're a basic guide, but of course you might as well, if you can, pull into one of those shapes because it'll cover it. And I'm going to do the pull and smash again, because now I've got water dots up here, and when you do the smashing, it's going to hit that blob of water and it's going to kind of flare out. It'll give you sort of a wild, I don't know if you can tell, let me grab this again. On here, you're getting, some of this flaring out, kind of a wild look, and that's what we're trying to get. So I'll try to mix the colors as I go across, and I'll stop talking and I'll just do it. Okay. So, again, I'm going to protect the sky. I'm coming even below, at this point, I'm coming, let's say, to the bottom of the sawtooth pattern, like that, and I'm going to cover these guys. Is this too loud, this mic? It's okay. Okay, now I'm going to saturate everything below. I didn't mask this, and I'm going to try to remember, actually this color's not going to come over here anyways, but I'll just wet it anyways, just in case some paint somehow finds its way over there. I'm going a little above that distant shoreline, that's okay. You can go right up to it, but I just don't want hard edges down here. If it happens, try to brush it out. We'll deal with that later. Okay, and this is dry still. I'm not doing anything here. Now I'm going to grab this, get that out of the way. Yeah, thank you. Good. Sorry. So I've got a tissue in a hand, just in case. And I'm going to start with some cobalt blue. It's fairly rich because I'm going to be hitting this with water. And I'm just going to kind of fling it on there. Like that. I prefer not huge blobs, but this is something I think we should do practice run on too, because it's not as easy getting the little dots as it might look. And I'm gonna, it looks like, you just kind of fling them down there, and you do, but again, it's a little bit of a feel, and I don't know how to tell you exactly how much to put on here either, other than, all right.
Are you switched to green now?
I did, to the cobalt green, I'm going to call it, and actually I'm going to switch over. I'm just going to move across. I'm going to just throw some yellow in here, just straight up, because it's going to mix when it's on there. Over here, I'm trying not to get, sometimes even on there maybe I have a little bit too much of a pattern, but now I'm going to the ultramarine blue. The cobalt, that's a little bit more distant, and I often use the cobalt for more distant things. This ultramarine blue seems like it stands out a little bit more. Now I'm going to come and grab some of this ultramarine blue. I meant ultramarine green. Ultramarine blue. I'll come in here now. And you can see where this gets down here, it just sort of flares out. I'll deal with that in a minute. I just want to get these blobs in because I don't have tons of time. I don't want these to set up too much because then they won't flare out so good. So, I don't know. Maybe I'll grab some more of this yellow here. Come across, I don't know. That was kind of a big blob, but,
Oh, I'm glad to hear you say I don't know too.
oh, yeah, I don't, I'm just, you kind of go through here and well, that's why I say when I do this, it's very hard for me to talk and do it. That's why I tried to explain a little bit before I did it, so you have an idea what I'm doing.
So you're putting a lot on, Joe.
Yeah, I guess it is.
Yeah.
And now, how far did I get over here? Maybe I better get a little bit more cobalt blue, just a little bit closer there. Okay, well, I'm gonna try this. Now I'm gonna pull this back a bit to expose the sawtooths. I'm gonna still keep that pretty much covered. And now this part. So this, you just lightly sprinkle. And this is kind of, you get the touch of it again. And that's why the type of plunger you have is important. This works for a lot of different things. For foliage, it's kind of handy because you can get this. You can see I'm spraying over into these sawtooths because I'm going to be using that water in the next step here when I do my pull and smashes. But the goal is to fuse these, but not saturate them. I want the spaces between. Maybe not that big on that one. I want bigger spaces when I do it over here, but on these I want it fairly tight. Does that make sense? I want them kind of close together, but it's a fine line. You don't want. Okay, so I've got. You see the patterns you get. Then I'm going to grab. I'll call it a thirsty brush. It could be any brush. I'm just using a number 12 round brush, and I'm going to grab. I'll let that be for now. Grab some of the bigger puddles. Just try to, without distorting the shape, if you can, maybe get some of the bigger ones. In fact, I'll just let that go down. Break that dam, let it go down there, because I'm going to wet that anyways. In fact, before I even do that, I'm going to sprinkle some salt on, because that helps sort of the flow of the paint. It kind of, I'm going to be kind of liberal with it. All right, so I have a range of color going across, and I'll mix that up a little bit too when I start pulling these on here. And I'm going to wet this below again, try not to spray myself with all that. Because, again, all I'm trying to do, it's fine that it runs down. Does that show up on the screen okay?
Uh-huh.
Okay, I'm just trying to, just don't want it to set up there. And again, I don't have tons of time, so I'm gonna go for some of these bigger scoops. So the goal here is to get kind of this, I don't know what you call the pattern, but little holes. You want to keep the little holes, and that's why I do think we should practice them, because you remember from last year, those of you who did, it's not that easy, right, to get that. I mean, it's kind of, it's like so much in watercolor, it's very subtle as to how much you spray on. Okay, I think maybe I'll leave that for now. I'll come back to those, and now I'm going to grab the rigger. Now I can pull these, maybe I'll just pull it out of the way altogether. And maybe I'll, in this case, if I was smart, I just dragged it through the water, didn't I? Well, if I had been smart, I would have kind of laid those in my lap. I usually do.
There's one on the floor by your foot.
Oh, I had thought of it. Thank you. Just to keep it on. Anyways, I'll dip in here, and I'll just come in here. Now I'm going to do another pull and smash. This is a distant tree. Maybe I want to fill that space in a little bit. Maybe I'll do one like that at an angle. And see, it hits that water. It's just sort of a rough edge. Maybe I'll pull one up here. I'm doing it real lightly, at least now. And I don't want to move. I don't want to kind of stay in this area too long. I got to kind of keep moving across here. Let's do one there. Maybe I want to introduce this green down here. I can just kind of mix it up. Well, I missed. I was trying to hit that sawtooth, but oh well. Let's see. Here's some of this. Pull this one here. You see that effect you get? It's kind of, now, as I do these, I'm going to add, I'll grab some, and you can dip into the paint if you need to, but I'm just using what I have here. That one's a little darker. When I smash these, you can see I'm trying hard not to make them like Christmas trees. I'm not doing anything too fancy. I'm just sort of pulling it in there, pull, and I'm just literally taking the tip of that and kind of smashing it in. And I've done that to this brush for a long time, so they can take it, I guess. Don't use, maybe don't use a super expensive, these are synthetic brushes, don't use, you know, like super good brushes, maybe it would wreck it, but.
Very good.
All right, see, so I'm kind of mixing the colors a little bit here. What's going on down here? I better see what's going on. Maybe a little water, just to keep that kind of moving. And
Sun is out.
there's still a little water up here. So the goal is to get the little patterns, to have some variance in color. So I didn't want it solid, maybe I could add a little, the blue. I didn't want it solid green, so I've got cobalt blue, ultramarine blue over on this end. I wanted to vary that a bit. Maybe I'll try it. This is an ultramarine blue tree over here. It's tipping a bit. I'll put trunks in and maybe some dead trees later, not on this step here. Let's see, I'll put this one too. I see I had some spots on the paper. Rather than deal with it later, I'll just put a branch there. Did you see that, what I had? Yeah, sometimes it works. If you get something up here like that, I don't even know, that's probably salt or something, leave it for now, and deal with it when it's dry, because, you know, you risk the cat in the hat phenomenon, where you just kind of have a mess that you keep chasing. It just gets worse.
Could be a bird.
Could be a bird, yeah. All right, well, let's see, maybe I can do something bigger here, kind of like that sort of thing. I don't know. And of course, you don't, maybe I'll add one in here too. See how I babble when I do this? 'Cause I don't always know what I'm gonna do.
At least there's people around when you do it.
Yes. I hadn't thought of that. It's not full-blown dementia yet.
You're only crazy if you argue with yourself and lose.
And you can come in and maybe I'm gonna take a chance here. I'll grab some. And I'm grabbing some of this ultramarine blue right out of here. Now I'm gonna come down in here a little bit and pull one up. So I was trying to break this green mass up a little bit, and you know, I could even do that again. See how it's just sort of, if you want to kind of break up a pattern of color, you can come in, I don't know if that's quite dry enough, I'll try it here, we'll see what happens, like that. That didn't do much, but you can kind of come in and manually add some colors too, to break it up, like there's a tree there, that sort of thing. I'm trying not to fill in those little white spots on here. And like I say, we'll come in and we'll put trunks in, maybe this one. It's like it's there, I'll kind of add back into it, so it goes down more into this green.
You're good at leaving negative space.
Well, I'm always telling myself how, stop, because, I think we all, most of us have a tendency to keep going. I know I do, and sometimes you're better off just holding off. And a lot of times, just because if I stop now, and I think I'm going to pretty quick here, I'm picking up more puddles, as you can see. That doesn't mean I'm not gonna come back, and I could still maybe add something in dry. I don't think I will. I'm gonna add in trunks and things later. Where's that salt? Does anyone see it? There it is. I'll add maybe a little more of that. And then wick this up. Just the big puddles, but again, trying not to push into these white spaces. Unless it's a big white space, like maybe that's too big of a white space, so I'll just kind of manually go in there and close it down. When we do it over here, we're kind of going to do the same type of thing over here. I'll want bigger gaps than here. Here I sort of wanted smaller ones, so maybe I'll shrink some of these. And then the other thing I can see that I've got going on here is it's getting a little light on some of these treetops, so I might want to pull a few. It's like there's a darker band here. I can pull some dark in, and maybe I'll do that. Like now, grab some of this rich ultramarine green. Where can I pull it? I don't know. I'll just pull one here. Something's boiling, or is that water?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh. Let's see. I don't know. See, you know, you run that risk of going too long too, so I know what I'll do. I'll leave that. Maybe on this other end where the cobalt was, I'll come in with,
Yeah.
maybe one here that's a little bit darker. I just don't want that real dark band there. I sort of have that going here, so I'm just trying to break that up. And yet, well, let's try this.
That looks good.
Maybe one more, and then I'm gonna quit for now anyways. Maybe I'll quit for now. Okay, so then this stuff here, I can kind of dab it up, as long as I don't have, well, that could turn into a green rock, didn't it? Okay, then I can just sort of grab some of these puddles here. And of course, you can blow dry this. If you do, be real careful that you don't have real loose puddles, because of course you'll blow those right over, probably onto your neighbor's painting, or onto yourself or something. So it looks like this is getting sort of stable now, where there's no real big puddles on there. But when I do steps like this, and I just try to think ahead of time, get the paints in place, get the brushes in place, the salt in place, have everything in place ready so that you're not fishing around for things, because you don't have much time really doing this. Once I lay these on there, even the dots, I mean, you've got these paint dots, even before I apply the water, I mean, they start to set up at a point, and they're not gonna flare out. You'll have real distinct dots on there then. So it's all, timing, like so much of it. So you get the dots on there and spray it, pull these up. I think we should do practicing. Does everyone agree?
Yeah.
Because you got so much time into your piece, and look at it, it is sunny out there. Look how nice it is here in Montana. So we'll hand out those again. Is Marlene around here? She take off? She did. She went to the casinos, I bet. Yeah. Did you guys give her cash again?
Yeah.
Anyways, I'll find them, and then we'll, you might want to pull your other piece off that practice board.